Okay, we've got a special extra segment. Can only be one segment because I don't want to exceed my upload limit, and I just want to mention a couple of things. I had made one mistake. I had said that when we're going up and forth in the string shapes, okay, so this is on the bottom strings, which are the bottom strings of the cage shapes, or any of the strings that contain those same string shapes, those three note fragments. I had said that there wasn't bookended isolation in between the fourths and the fifths, but there is. So let's look at the E shape here. All right, so we've got the E shape 7 root 2, and then we have the D shape 2, 3, 4. Okay, in caged you don't have the bookend isolation. However, if you're going in fifths or fourths, so the fourth of E is B, the fifth of E rather. When we go to the right, it's a fifth. The fifth of E is B, but we take the C to start the pattern over again. So there is bookend isolation between the E and the C, and that is where that D is. Probably thought because there was a letter, a label. These are just labels. So we've got bookend isolation in between the E and the C, so that would be a fifth, and between the C and the E, that's a bad example because then we have the diminished fourth. C doesn't go to F, it has to go to E, which is the third. It's essentially the tuning third coming back to haunt us. And then going from E to B, we go to C, same thing. So we do have bookend isolation between all of these shapes. So starting with the 3, we have the C to the fifth of C is G. We have bookend isolation because G is 6, 7 root, and 3, 4, 5. So that bookend isolation does exist, but it does not exist in caged. Caged is shared notes. So let's look at the C shape down here. The C string pattern would just be E, F, G in the key of C. Okay, and then the fifth of C is G, so we go to the G string pattern 6, 7 root. And we have isolation right there. I want to also show you something that I just figured out with this. I wrote it down, and it's pretty easy to figure out. What it means is, there's an easy way to count to fifths and count to fourths. And the reason why I'm saying this might be a good idea is because it keeps you thinking in caged. I used to not be able to think in caged at all. I couldn't, wait a minute, what is it? C goes to what? I mean, I could say C-A-G-E-D. I could even think in backwards, backwards. When you're looking at the caged circle, we're just spinning backwards. So here's the caged circle, C-A-G-E-D. We're spinning backwards here in caged, but now it's an ascending pentatonic scale, C, D, E, G, A. Okay, and then forwards is C, A, G, E, D, C. Okay? So now, all of a sudden, I've got no problem counting in caged because my worries are counting in the fifth of something and the fourth of something. Well, guess what? As it turns out, the string circle, if you go clockwise, is in fifths, but guess what? This is every other caged letter. So if we take every other caged letter, we get the string circle. So C skip A, we get G, so C goes to G, okay? G skip E, we get D, so G goes to D, okay? D skip C, we get A, so D goes to A, okay, and so on. It's so that in fifths we're taking every other letter in the word caged, and guess what? In fourths we're taking every other letter in the word caged backwards. So if we're going from C to E, we skip the D. If we're going from E to A, we skip the G. From A to D, so there's A to D, we would skip the C. So here's A to D. Okay, so in the caged circle, sorry, if we're going to A to D right there, we would skip the C. So in the cage circle, we'd skip the C to go to A to D. And then the fourth of D is G. Okay, so going from D to G, we would skip the E. So if you want to go in fifths, just take every other letter in the caged word. So let's do the fifth thing first. Let's start on any arbitrary shape, say the A shape. So this would be your A shape pentatonic. Let's just do it. Let's just do it in C. So that's our A shape and our A shaped C. Just a A shaped C. Remember, it starts from the A shaped A. Same thing right there. So let's just start on that A shape. So in the word caged, what does A go to? It goes to G, but we're going to skip G and go to E. So the next shape is the E shape, 7 root 2. Okay, and then E is going to skip D to the C shape again, 3, 4, 5. C is going to skip A to the G shape again, 6, 7 root. Okay, G is going to skip E to the D shape again, 2, 3, 4, warp it over. And let's do it in fourth. So let's start on top. So we've got the A shape. Now we're going to go up a pentatonic scale instead of the caged word, because it's the caged word backwards, so we're going the caged circle backwards. Let's start on the A there. Okay, so the A shape's going to be, all right, so the A shape will go 5, 6, and we're going to, from the A shape we would normally go up to the C shape, but we're going to skip that and go to the D shape. So the next shape down is 4, 3, 2 for the D shape. This is a little harder, okay. Now the D is going to skip the E shape and go to the G shape. Okay, so we got to warp down for that, root 7, 6 for that G shape. Okay, G is going to skip the A shape and go to the C shape. 5, 4, 3. Okay, C is going to skip the D shape and go to the E shape to root 7. So it's harder going down, and the E shape is going to skip the G shape and go back to the A shape, which is 6, 5. So that's what I wanted to show you today, that you can, if you want to count in fifths, just use the word caged and skip every other letter. So if you're in C shape here, skip A and go to G shape, skip E and go to D shape, skip D, this is D shape, skip C again and go to A shape. Okay, from A, skip G and go to E shape, warped up. And then from E we would go to D and cage, but we're going to skip the D and go to C shape. Just like that's what I wanted to tell you. So remember, caged has the cage is interlocked. So with cage, let's look at this. Start on the C shape way over here. And by the way, this works on any string. So yeah, we could look at C shape here with the 3, 4, 5. Going to the A shape here with the 5, 6. Remember, the bottom string and the top string are the same because it just works out that way in the pattern. Okay? There was one more thing I wanted to correct, and that is when we look at making fretboards here, with 6 strings, it's only going to go over to the left 1 fret, and that gets warped over. The problem is with certain keys, like the key of E or something, we've got more than the top 2 accidentals there. So in the key of G right here, from 6 to 6 up here, we warp the top 2 over and we have the lone wolf 7. Whereas with the key of D, we go from 2 to 2 here, we warp the top 2 over and we get to 3 and 7 or no place. Thanks for watching. I just wanted to add this little segment at the end. I'm fired up about correcting these errors that I saw on today. Keep watching, keep playing. I'm glad you're still watching the videos, and I hope you're learning. And don't forget to join the Facebook group if possible with the link